Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Thursday, day 5 of the Nationals for the 18 and 20 metre classes. Okay, notices from the manager. Please do not drive across the airfield in the evening. Last night we had an A320 about to take off and a glider pilot drove across the middle of the airfield in front of the jet just before it took off. We were 30 seconds from it being a reportable event. Luckily, the strobe on the airfield hadn't been turned on at that point, but if it had, we'd have had to have reported it to the AIRB and the safety areas and the CAA. So please don't do that. Use the Perry track in the evening rather than driving straight across. No dogs in the restaurant, and please stick to the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on the airfield, please. We had one incident yesterday, so please keep to the speed limit. Catering, as before, I think you've all been enjoying the delights of the flight deck and their offerings. Last night was curry night, and I believe the Merv Saunders special went down very well, which is a bit of everything. Tomorrow night we're pizza night. Saturday night, which is sort of unofficial party night, there'll be a buffet. On Saturday night, Mark Davenport, assuming everyone gets back, is planning to run an open mic night with a bit of a party vibe, either in the clubhouse or on the patio, depending on what happens. If you're interested in doing any sort of performing, please have a chat with Mark and he'll sort that out. There'll be some music that his team will be playing, and we're trying to get various different Lasham talent. A bit of Lasham's Got Talent going on, and visiting pilots too. So on to the more serious stuff, the director's notes. A reminder, the Pilot Safety Committee, Ian MacArthur, Liz Sparrow and Tim Robson. Oh, I appear to have lost a slide. 1 second. Apologies for that. So some safety reminders. We had a Pilot Safety Committee briefing in front of the grid yesterday. We're going to have another one today as we are continuing to see some concerning incidents. So please, all pilots to the front of the grid at 11:15. Remember, there are no points available before the start. We're not here to kill our friends. Really, please try and be a bit more careful again today. I know a lot of people were trying pretty hard yesterday, and we saw some really good behaviour, but we're continuing to see some challenging behaviour. Please land long if possible, and please avoid taxiing off. You can't see who's coming behind you. It might be a little bit trickier today with the crosswind, but we will have to try and manage that as best we can. For the 20-metre class, you may want to refresh your memory of the rules for ridge running if you choose to use some of the ridges available today. On to the results. 18-metre class on day 4. In third place, Darren Francis with 82.81 kph and 678 points. Second place, Ian MacArthur, 90.15 kph for 759 points. And first place, Chris Starkey with a blistering 96.89 kph and 834 points. So well done to Chris. Really impressive performance to pull out that much speed on everyone else. 20 metres, day 4. Steve Jones in third place with 90.17 kph for 899 points. Gary Coppin with 90.38 kph and 901 points. And in first place, Tim Scott with 90.67 kph for 905 points. So well done to all three of you. All those who got a top 3 placing, please remember to collect your wine from control. Over to Colin with the web.
Thanks, Ed. So, folks, yeah, another day in prospect. Wasn't sure how this one's going to play out first thing in the morning. because we weren't sure of the sort of timing on the front. That's overnight for this weak cold front that was coming down, but it seemed to whistle across us a little bit quicker than even the forecast models were suggesting. And this says midday 1 o'clock. It's already there. It's gone well past us. Nice clearance has come through, and some fresh northeasterly air. Interesting air mass in there. You can see the isobars have tightened up a little bit. Pressure's about 1,021 over us at the moment. So we're now in a northerly, northeasterly flow, which is bringing it in off the North Sea, which will make a little bit of a challenge for certainly pilots out of Dunstable or anywhere up towards the East Anglia coast. We're hopefully far enough away that it'll dry out nicely and give us a reasonable slot. Just quick on the TAFs, they changed quite quickly this morning when I think they probably realised they were behind what was going on. But now we've got Farnborough 010 knots, which is probably what we've got now, and they're talking about broken at 3,000 feet plus. So certainly indications that going to be cumulus about for the day, most of the day, hopefully. And the upper winds, they're in the region of sort of 10 knots right in the center of the country, but more like about 15 in your task area, I suspect. Northerly or slightly northeasterly seems to be the flavor all the forecast models are giving. And the sat pic shows, and this is probably half an hour old now, it shows the position of the front is right over the West Country. We're in this gap here, which is breaking up quite nicely. We've still got lots of clouds spilling in off the North Sea, but the good thing, the dew points have gone down about 2 or 3 degrees since 7 o'clock this morning, both over us and out in East Anglia. So things are drying out quite nicely, and they're down around 10 at the moment. Temperature wise, I guess probably that looks about right. The temperature model, I think about 20, maybe 21 at a stretch. It certainly won't feel like it when you stood on the ground on the grid. I noticed when the front went through, the temperature went down 2 or 3 degrees fairly rapidly this morning. I think we're going to get hopefully 20 degrees. That's what I'm working on with the numbers. And dew points, if they go to plan, I'm thinking this green should be right over us as well. Dew points down about 8s to 9s. Any lower than that, and it starts to blue out. Looking at the current soundings, I've looked at the sounding here, which is this afternoon, plugging in somewhere around 20 degrees. With a dew point of around about 9, we should have cloud base up around 4,000 feet above sea level. And then cloud tops a little bit higher than that, 5 maybe. You start to get dew points lower than about 8, and everywhere looks a little bit blue. The soundings, predicted soundings this morning, these 2 lines here, quite a bit further apart, and I think that's basically the model that both Top Meteo and SkySight were going with this morning, which showed a large blue area, and you'll see that in a second, over the middle of the country, and I don't think that's going to be the case today. Sounding further north, Bicester, Buckingham area, lines again much closer together, probably around about 4,000 feet again. Cloud tops about 5.5. So reasonable depth of convection. As it starts to dry out even more, dew points come down to about 8, and that's going to thin out quite a bit, a little bit like it did yesterday. That's the fingers crossed. If you look at Top Meteo, you will see that that's sort of 1 o'clock, and they've got this large blue area, only because I think the model they were looking at was 3 hours ago, and the lines were much further apart. I think we're going to see more of this cumulus here right over us, over the Oxford area, and right down to the south coast. This one just plays out with blue all day. There's not been an update yet. We'll have a look at that when it comes out. And what I think is right is thermal heights. They're suggesting by midday 3,000 feet. And then as we go on through the afternoon, by about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, 1,400 meters over most of the southern area here from Oxford south to us. Yeah, so 4,500 feet looks to be about right. And a suggested distance and task area would be really anywhere in that area around here and down along the south coast. So I think that's where we've been trying to play with the tasks over the last couple of hours. Models have changed, and I think they might change a little bit more. So we'll just keep an eye on it, and that's why we've got, I think, as Ed will tell you, a variation on tasks, so we can keep an eye on the weather and work out where the best place to send you. Okay, Ed, over to you. I think I'm stuck with the having to stop all the shares, and you'll have to start again.
Okay, thank you very much, Colin. Okay, so tasks for day 5. Just a note, because of the unusual wind direction and the sort of potential circuit planning challenges, we've moved the minimum finish height for all tasks up to 400 foot above ground level at Lasham. So it's just 100 foot higher than it has been most of the week. Just a reminder for when you're programming your nav kit. So 20-meter class, task A, we are setting a 3-hour thermal AAT, but it will go over the South Downs area. We're not sure with the wind that all of the South Downs will be working or that it will be particularly good, but we think that the thermals should be good all through that area, with the option to fall back on the ridge potentially if you struggle in the thermals. So we've set a 4-hour AAT, min distance 160k, max distance 421, going down to Petersfield, then Stenning, and then out into Kent, and then back via Salt Hill Mast, and then back into an area up towards Oxford to maximise the distance and hopefully keep you in 2 areas of fairly uniform, good cumulus weather, with the option of some use of a ridge if needed. The primary task is 3-hour AAT. If it doesn't develop quite as planned, but we need to send you in that direction, we've got a task B, which is exactly the same task with a 2-hour AAT. And then the C task is, if we think it's better off to the north, we will send you up north on a 200-kilometre Cat's Cradle, up to Didcot, back down to Andover, up to Wantage, and back down via a control point back to Lasham. And then a fallback if it really doesn't develop as quickly as we'd hoped. A very similar sort of task, just a bit shorter, up to Ilsey, and then back to Andover, then Woolly down, and then Overton as a control point to try and bring you back in from the west. For the 18 meters, due to the number of gliders, we weren't able to really sensibly task you down onto the south coast. So we are looking at a number of tasks to the north. The primary task at the moment is a 200-kilometre Cat's Cradle up to Oxford. So Goring, Andover, Oxford, Mitcheldever, and then home again, using a control point to bring you back in. The fallback, if it doesn't develop as quickly as we'd hoped or isn't quite as high cloud base as we'd hoped, a minimum distance task, Basingstoke, Pangbourne, Andover, Ilsley, Mitcheldever. And then we've got a full forward task. The latest weather update about 20 minutes, half an hour ago, was a bit more positive than we thought. So we've got the option, if it looks really good, to send you out on the sort of 270k. So Goring, Pewsey, up to Calvert, and then back to Andover again, trying to give you as much of an interwind leg as we can to make use of any streeting that is occurring up there. So those are the tasks. Just a reminder, if you do end up on the ridge, if you're doing the 20 meters A or B tasks, please take extra care, especially at the blind corners. You won't be the only gliders up there. If you do go down on the ridge, there'll be gliders from Parham, probably locals from Lasham, Booker, and various other places. We've even seen Nimsfield gliders down there on a number of days, so it won't necessarily be quiet. Please be aware that in a number of places there are quite limited field options and there are stud farms, so please try and avoid landing on the stud farms if you sensibly can. and just be aware if you are flying low level on ridges of the risks involved. I sent out a text with a guide this morning for those that might be considering using that bit and who aren't familiar. Okay, over to Colin with the airspace.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'm going to run through this. I've got a few things to say, so I'll try and get crack straight on. Popham is open as usual. Compton Box is open from local time midday till 1900 local. Please reread the local rules on that. There is a section which specifically covers the use of the Compton Box, and we'll be broadcasting the Heathrow Q&H on the start frequency at 30-minute intervals. We're required to do this. It's one of the conditions we have for using the Compton Box. Please do take a moment to read the operating procedures, if you like, for the use of the Compton Box. Fairford Max is active with military traffic again. No change to the airspace file. ODM 80Z is a penalty zone. Para Chalgrove is the penalty zone. Para Chiltern Park is not a penalty zone. A quick walk through the task as best I can draw it on my system. We've got a little bit of late breaking information on that, but looking out down towards the coast, you are close to that danger area there, Echo Golf Delta 130. We put a caution in about that. It tops out at 1800 feet today. Obviously, as regards ATZs, Chichester, Goodwood and Shoreham are relevant. And then you're coming out this way, there's a big fan out here. You're getting close, but not, you should not in normal circumstances get close enough to worry about them, but we've told them about it. A bit of breaking news is we have been just told of a couple of Chinooks which are routing from this point here, Wickham, out here, coming round the east of the London TMA to go into central London. They won't tell us what they're doing, but they're going to be at 100 feet or below. Shouldn't be a problem unless you're on the ridge and low level, or if you happen to be making a field landing anywhere in this area. So really it's just a heads out, and be aware there might be low level traffic which could conflict with you in the last stage of your approach into a field. Hopefully you're all going to be back up here by then, and the sector we're looking at goes up as pretty well as far as Oxford East. And what have we got in this area? Well, we've got the Benson 80Z, we've got Chalgrove, which is a penalty zone, and we've got Chiltern Park, which is not. Coming back down this way, the proximity of the Solent CTA with a strong northerly wind. If you're doing a bit of scratching around here, you can very rapidly start to blow towards it. Just be aware of it. Moving on now really for the 18 meters, and I've got an approximation. I haven't had a chance to put the big task in, but for the task we had up to that point, most of the remarks I had in the previous slide apply. Proximity to the London TMA, but you are being blown away from it. Also proximity to the nuclear sites. This display does not show the reduced footprint, but be aware of what the reduced footprint is, and obviously it's a penalty zone. Again, down here, coming back down, you are getting close to the Thruxton and Middle Wallop ATZs, particularly with a strong northerly struck with a little bit of east in it. You're going to get blown into that if that happens. Oxford East, of course, or Oxford South shown there rather, quite close to the Bryce zone, so be aware of it. What more can I say? Benson 80Z, Chalgrove up here, and which is a penalty zone, and Chiltern Park here, which is not. Not much more to add on that, I don't think. So have a careful day. And I just want to pass this on. It's nice to be able to say something positive. We had a thank you message from the Compton Abbas air ground operator, and he's asked me to pass on to everyone that called him. He commented very favorably on the way the pilots acted, and I'm very happy to pass that on. It's good to hear it. We've had a checkered relationship with Compton Abbas over the years, and it's on the up. Let's keep it that way. It's not going to be relevant today, but maybe later in the week as well. Thank you for that. Any questions, of course, via the chat function as usual. And radio frequencies, I'm going to remind you of this again. Start line 129.890, and that is the frequency you're going to be listing out on if you're using the Compton box. Very important this, because reminding you that the Compton box is based on the Heathrow QNH, which we will be broadcasting. I know it's a bit. Anyway, finish line 131.030, tugs 131.030. And once again, because Dunstable will be coming down and this way in all probability, please prefix all calls with Lasham. It does help when we're listening to you. We don't get the call signs clipped. Thank you. I think that's all I have. Back to Ed.
Question Colin on the height of Chalgrove.
Oh, active. Oh, sorry, Chalgrove.
Chalgrove, yeah.
Chalgrove is my one. I'll come back on that.
Okay, well, Colin's having a look at the airspace for Chalgrove to answer the question. We'll talk a little bit about airfield layout and finishing. A reminder, following the incident last night, please drive around the Perry track to go back over to the south side. I think everyone's been doing really well this week. We've only had, I think, 1, maybe 2 incidents, so please keep doing that. Airfield layout today is a particularly challenging wind direction when launching from the runway at Lasham. In the end, what we've decided to do is to go from 27 and accept a very slight tailwind component. But what that will give us is a downhill run with no trees at the end, which will hopefully give you a better clearance at the threshold of the runway. The alternative is to go uphill with a very slight headwind. And yesterday we were quite marginal over the trees with some gliders. So we are set up on 27. Relights will also be to the south of 27. So just take particular care with the crosswind and a bit of a tailwind component. Leave plenty of space from the runway if you're coming in to land short for a relight, because your glider is going to want to steer into the grid. So please don't have that accident. Okay, so for once we've launched, this is how we're going to operate the airfield. So you'll notice we've swapped everything around. So we will launch you down the hill. We will expect landings to be straight into the slight head crosswind on either the runway or the grass runways to the south. The club operation is expecting to set up on 09 north. So you'll be coming in parallel to their circuit traffic. The tugs are going to be, for the grid launch, the tugs are going to land on 05 and backtrack to join the grid. We think that's the least worst way we can do it. So please don't leave any paraphernalia around this area. If you've got any gliding stuff, you're taking back to your trailer. We are also, if you find yourself on a marginal glide and you're coming back from the south, which is unlikely, but if you do find yourself in that position, or if you turbo retreat back and are marginal, then please consider the option to land on 05. But if you do so, aim to stop before the first grass runway that's been cut. That'll allow the competitors coming back in the sort of main landing direction to still land safely. This area of the airfield is all reasonably smooth. Obviously, there's trailers and various bits and pieces down here, so do not expect to be able to flop onto the end of the airfield here. This area, as many people found out yesterday, is still quite rough, so please try and avoid landing there if you can. But again, it is available and acceptable to land there if you absolutely need to. So apologies, it's a bit of a convoluted briefing for that today. Club operations, as I said, on the north side. Finishing, again, please, it's called 10K on the finish frequency. Please land long where you can and don't taxi off. We'll continue to monitor as we have done. Scoring, please submit your trace within 1 hour of landing. Colin, do you have an answer to the Chalgrove question?
Yes. Sorry, I think we put that back on the chat. The maximum altitude of the Chalgrove drop zone, Chalgrove, 5,500 feet AMSL.
Okay. Then the final thing I wanted to remind you of is the Pilot Safety Committee briefing at the front of the grid in about 20 minutes at 11:15. First launch will not be before 11:45, which will give us plenty of time to do that fairly short briefing and not have to rush you. Michael, any final questions that have come in on the chat that we need to? Oh, sorry, Henry. Any final questions that I need to worry?
No, it's right. No, Adrian had his hand up.
Okay, I think that's it on the briefing. If anyone has any questions, come and have a chat with us in control or out at the front of the grid at 11:15. Thank you very much for your help. Next briefing at 10 o'clock tomorrow.